I thank all of you for taking out the time to make it despite this inclement weather that we've been experiencing. I would like to first start with a brief on the Indian Space Association as well as this event, and then I will request the Director General to welcome all of you. The Indian Space Association aspires to be the apex space industry body created to be the collective voice of the Indian space industry. ISPA undertakes policy advocacy and engages with all stakeholders of the entire Indian space domain, including the government and various agencies, to make India self-reliant, technologically advanced, and a leading player in the global space arena. ISPA echoes the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. ISPA will work with all stakeholders to create an enabling environment for strengthening the private industry in the Indian space sector. It envisions to propel India to the global forefront in the entire space ecosystem. Since its creation, the Indian Space Association has grown into a strong and vibrant industry association with foremost space companies, including space-related startups, being members. It has been actively participating and contributing as the voice of the industry during all policy consultations organized by the different departments, ISRO, InSpace, and TRAI, to assist in the creation of a progressive legal and policy framework that would energize, support, as well as drive the commercial space activities in alignment to the vision and guidelines of the Honorable Prime Minister laid down during the inauguration of ISPA on the 11th of October last year. On the occasion of the first anniversary, ISPA is elated to invite all of you to the first Indian Space Conclave and welcome all of you to the first conclave. During the conclave, we are bringing together different government, private industry, and academia stakeholders to share their valuable insights during panel discussions for strategic impact. It will be a power-packed session, various power-packed sessions, thought sessions, leadership sessions that will include people from various government departments, Department of Space, ISRO, InSpace Communications, Defense, as well as founders and CEOs of India's top space companies, and they would be contributing with their discussions. ISPA is also organizing an exhibition to exhibit the capabilities of ISRO as well as ISPA members. So that is a brief about the event. You all would have received a little brochure with the agenda. And first, to kick off the conclave, I request the Director General of the Indian Space Association, General Anil Bhatt, to please welcome the gathering.
Good morning and Jai Hind. Excellency, senior officers of Defence Forces, eminent members of our space industry, and all other delegates. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your taking out your time to join us today in the Indian Space Conclave, which also happens to be our first anniversary celebration here today in India. ISPA is an apex industry association that was created to be the collective and unified voice of the Indian space industry. As the Director General of ISPA, it is truly a matter of pride for me to see our organization grow into a strong and vibrant association to be formally launched after it was launched by our Prime Minister last year. And we have had the unwavering support of all our members in this one-year journey. It brings me immense joy to see that our small family, which started with 5 to 6 founder members, today is nearing 50 members. I like to believe that ISPA is a byproduct of changing times. For long, ISRO has been the mainstay of our space sector, but this is now starting to change. The Prime Minister's decision to unlock the space sector 2 years ago has had a monumental effect, and I dare say it has triggered a new space revolution. And this revolution is being led by startups and young entrepreneurs who will take the nation to greater heights. We in ISPA considered our duty to help all our members in this new journey of India. At ISpA, our first focus, and the foremost one, has been policy advocacy to ensure a industrial-friendly and a light-touch regulations that we have. We have been actively participating in various policy consultations organized by the Department of Space, ISRO, InSpace, the Department of Telecommunication, and TRAI. And we have been assisting to create progressive and positive legal frameworks for the conduct of commercial space activities in India. We have also been involved in building up transcontinental relationships with private space associations of other countries to build a collaborative industrial and business relationship in India. The space policy is of course underway, and we are hopeful that it will provide us the necessary foundation for all our space domain companies. We also welcome the draft Indian Telecommunication Bill 2022, and we are sanguine that the aspirations and the expectations of our nascent space community will be taken care of. We would be sending our detailed comments to the Department of Telecommunication after consultation with our members. I'm confident that today the discussions will serve as a fertile ground for aligning with our goals and finding solutions that can make India the next global space leader. And to start with, that is why we are starting the sessions with our most important players, and that are our startups. Over to you now.
Thank you very much, General Bhatt. And as the DG said, the first session that we're about to start now is the session on startups, powering Indian startups to lead global disruption. The Indian space industry, hitherto steered by ISRO, is currently undergoing radical changes that have the potential to profoundly reshape our space economy. A slew of Indian space firms are developing cutting-edge technology to address today and tomorrow's issues. Many of them are expected to be tomorrow's world leaders in space, as well as critical building blocks in realizing the $5 trillion vision. At this stage, it is important to mentor and support them and create opportunities wherein their technology and products can be gainfully used by government, industry, and citizens. During the discussion, we will aim to understand how we can handhold them in creating market opportunities and mobilize resources to support their journey. I would like to call upon first the moderator of this session, after which I would call upon the panelists, and finally all of us will welcome the chairperson of this panel. The panel moderator is Mr. Ravinder Pal, partner at Kaalari Capital. May I request you to please come up? Mr. Pal is a Harvard alumni. He is an award-winning technologist, professor of innovation, rescue pilot, deep tech investor, and global speaker with several hundred global recognition and 28 patents. His body of work, mostly first in the world, is making a difference within acute constraints of culture and cash via commodity technology. Mr. Pal, thank you very much for agreeing to moderate this session. I would like to call upon the panelists one by one. Anirudh Sharma, co-founder and CEO of Digantara. May I request you to please come up? He is the founder and CEO of the Indian Institute of Science incubated company Digantara. And Digantara aims to create a sustainable space environment by establishing space situational awareness for India, and is designing a space debris collector or detector that would focus on space debris mapping and analysis services, collision avoidance, and orbit determination. Our next panelist is Rohan M. Ganapathy, CEO and CTO of Bellatrix Aerospace Private Limited. Mr. Ganapathy, I request you to please come up. Mr. Ganpati has developed and patented the microwave plasma thruster, an advanced type of electric propulsion system that runs on water as propellant and offers various advantages over existing technologies. Bellatrix Aerospace is a 2 times national award-winning Indian space tech company. Mr. Ganpati, thank you very much for agreeing to be a part of this panel. Our next panelist is Mr. Bharath Daka, co-founder at Skyroot Aerospace. I request Mr. Daka to please come up on stage. Mr. Daka has worked with ISRO and also in the semiconductor industry. He has co-founded Skyroot Aerospace, India's award-winning private launch vehicle startup, and he spearheads the team's operations, avionics, and GNC activities. Mr. Daka, thank you very much for being a part of this panel. I welcome you. Our next panelist is Shri Kranthi, Head Strategy and Special Projects of Dhruva Space Private Limited. In his position at Dhruva, Mr. Kranthi is responsible for market research and strategic planning for corporate development, including bid management for government tender opportunities, to build relationships with strategic government and defense clientele in India and overseas for the company. He has also established global partnerships in the ground station networks, remote sensing, and in-space transportation areas. Mr. Kranthi, thank you very much for being a part of this panel and for joining us. Our next panelist is Mr. Suyash Singh, who is the co-founder of GalaxEye Space Solutions. This company is working on exciting, futuristic, and important technologies around space technology and electric vehicles. I request Mr. Suyash Singh to please come up on stage. Our next speaker or panelist is Mr. Kshitij Khandelwal, founder and CTO of Pixxel. That is the Chief Technology Officer and the founder of Pixxel. Before this, he has worked in DRDO and Hyperloop in India. He holds an engineering degree from BITS Pilani. Mr. Khandelwal, thank you very much for joining this panel. And then we have Mr. Vish Sahasranamam, co-founder and CEO of Forge. Vish has founded Forge with the vision to catalyze national-scale industrial digital transformation by enabling government and industry to collaborate with startups as innovation partners. IDEX, the Open Innovation Program launched by the MOD that Vish has been a part of from its very foundation stage, has won the prestigious Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Private Administration. Thank you very much for being a part of this panel and joining us. And finally, I would request all of us to please welcome the chairman of this session, that is Shri Rakesh Verma, Managing Director and co-founder of MapmyIndia. Mr. Rakesh Verma was nominated by the National GIS Core Group of Planning Commission by the Government of India. His entrepreneurial success has been featured by leading publications, and he spent several years in USA and returned to India to establish MapmyIndia, which is India's own provider of digital maps and associated technologies. Thank you very much, Mr. Verma, for agreeing to chair this session. Can I have a round of applause, please? I know it's a very gloomy weather out there, but I don't want us to be all gloomy. Louder. I need you to clap louder, please. Much better. And I promise you that clapping will give you also a lot of energy. And now I hand over the session to the moderator.
Look, it's an honor and a privilege, and a little bit shaky with stalwarts over here. So if I cross a line, or if any of the founders cross a line, because we like to speak freely, please accept our apologies in advance. But look, it's an honor and it's a privilege, and it's a gathering. Hopefully, this gathering will generate some kind of a momentum to leapfrogs all of the startups and space startups in India to a next level, which we all want to see. This is about them, so I'm not going to give numbers or thesis or something, but just one number. We are sitting on an opportunity, which is a $4 trillion opportunity. If we just take LEO economy, if we just believe in LEO economy in next 12 years. And there are less than 200 startups in India, which are space and defense startups, and we need to change that. And one of the ways of changing that is to create rock stars, and all of these guys are rock stars. I've traveled all over the world, and I've studied space entrepreneurship now for 14 years. And with no hesitation, I must say that space entrepreneurship in India is not only leading, it's cutting edge. It's one of the best, both in terms of the research, both in applied engineering and applied science, but also from a perspective of unit economics, which is always in our favor. I think we are sitting on a verge of something remarkable, where right from launching payloads to analyzing data and anything in between them, we can do it at a unit economics which nobody has ever thought of. And with that, these are my rock stars, so I know all of them and studied them before, and I have got just one pointers for each of them because we have just about 30-35 minutes. But before I do that, I would like each one of them in 2 minutes just explain or just tell about their journey and what do they do and why they got into this very, very tough domain and more tougher when they started their journey.
I'm Yashas Karanam, and our company Bellatrix Aerospace deals with all kinds of space transportation technologies. So when I say space transportation, our engines come in after a rocket leaves a satellite into orbit. We call them in-space mobility. And in in-space mobility, there are basically two kinds of technologies. One is similar to a rocket where you combust a fuel and that pushes your satellite. And then we have electric propulsion where you ionize a fuel and accelerate those ions in extremely high velocities to actually generate thrust. So we specialize in both electric propulsion as well as green high performance chemical propulsion area. And we started this company because our goal or our vision has been to develop technologies which can enable access to the future of the space industry. And we believe there is a lot more that can be done in space than what is being done today. So even from a military or a defense point of view, as all of you would have thought or would have been planning, there are a lot of missions that can happen in space, and we also talk about the future of war also being in space. So we need to be equipped with technologies that can really support that. And our company is trying to build a platform for the same. Thank you.
Bharath.
Hello all, I'm Bharath. I'm the co-founder of Skyroot Aerospace. We started Skyroot in mid-2018 with a vision to develop a company that can provide low-cost, reliable, on-demand space access solutions from India to the world. And as the first step, we are building a small satellite launch vehicle which can carry a few hundred kilograms of payload to low Earth orbit. Our first launch vehicle is named Vikram-1 after Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. We are in the active development and testing phase of our first launch vehicle, which we are hoping to attempt at our maiden launch sometime next year. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kranthi from Dhruva Space. I think the journey of the Indian space startup ecosystem as a new generation started back in 2012 with my colleague Sanjay starting up Dhruva Space. I think the important thing was that we've seen India had built satellites and built solutions for the world, especially for ourselves in terms of catering to our meteorological departments, defense, and everyone. But none of the companies from India had exported something for the world, and I think that was the main aim for us, to actually build solutions, satellite platforms, that can capture the global market in terms of what is required and how can we serve that. And that's been the primary aim, and our 10-year journey is a culmination of working with a lot of people on this panel together in actually building the new face of brand India in space, and also providing a full stack space engineering solution to provide space as a service.
All right, thank you so much for inviting, first of all, ISpA. And I'm Suyash. I'm the co-founder and CEO at GalaxEye Space. Probably not the youngest on the stage, but youngest representing the youngest startup in the ecosystem on the stage for sure. The idea of the startup actually came after we did a deep tech project called Hyperloop. Gained a lot of experiences there by running the Hyperloop at SpaceX, and then came back and now starting up with this another project. This is basically to enhance Earth observation capabilities on commercial side as well as strategic sides as well. So have some proof points on the commercial side. Happy to talk more about the strategic sides as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Hello, I am Kshitij Khandelwal, Chief Technology Officer and founder at Pixxel. I'm an electrical engineer, and the idea behind Pixxel, with which my co-founder Vish and I started, was to build cutting-edge Earth observation technology in India for India and the world. And to that effect, we've deployed a couple of hyperspectral satellites up in space. The idea is to build a constellation of such hyperspectral satellites, put them in low Earth orbit, and build a health monitor for the planet. The applications for the data are immense. I'm happy to talk about them as we move ahead.
Good morning. Firstly, happy birthday, ISpA. It doesn't feel like a year. It feels like it's been a much longer time that ISpA has been around. So that's the scale and impact that you've already managed to create. Many congratulations. I'm Vish, Sahasranamam, co-founder and CEO of Forge. Forge, we're an incubator. We're about 7.5 years old, and we started only to do two things. One is help public sectors and big companies, large companies, make the most out of startup innovation, entrepreneurial innovation through open innovation programs. IDEX is one of the programs I've been associated with from the very beginning, and happy to be part of the next phase of IDEX, where we're looking at defense space in a very big way. We're working with ISpA and several other members of the association to make that happen. Once again, thank you, and very happy to be here.
Thank you, Vish. Anirudh? Just a minute or 2 minutes about Digantara.
First of all, sorry for the delay. I am Anirudh Sharma, one of the co-founders and CEO at Digantara. Digantara is a company working towards space situational awareness. We are at this point in time India's first company to set up a commercial observatory to track and map objects in space. And also we are setting up a constellation in space to track these objects. Basically, the idea is to create an infrastructure layer for the space economy to operate on. We'll be launching a couple of more satellites on both space weather and space object tracking to kind of provide situational awareness for anyone, be it for the launch companies, for satellite operators, defense and insurance companies.
Okay. Bharath, I'll start with you. Okay. Skyroot is in news. You guys have kind of shown a way in terms of raising a capital. So educate all of us what it takes for us space entrepreneurs to raise capital, and what's that journey like. But before that, and the reason I apologize in advance, when we talk about small satellites, Bharath, everyone talks about commoditization. Why commoditization of small satellites hasn't happened yet in India? And why only ISRO and SpaceX? Why can't someone else do it and become bigger than them?
Sure. I'll take the second one first. So basically, the commodification of space solutions, especially in the satellite domain, has been happening in US and Europe. What are the two key requirements that are generally required for a commodification to happen is having enough players who can supply reliable components that you can simply outsource and trust that they will work fine, is the key aspect of commodification. And the reason why commodification hasn't taken off well in India, of course, our friends at Dhruva are working parallelly on that, hasn't taken off is generally commodification happens when there is good amount of OEM capability already built in the country, and that only happens when there's a good regulation that enables that. Any commodification of an industry happens when there are existing OEM players, and then either as a spin-off or an offshoot, or the capability from the OEM can start up a new companies which can provide components for small satellites in general. So I think India is in the verge of the transformation due to the reforms that have been announced in 2020. Next decade, we will be seeing a lot of good players who can supply reliable, high TRL level components in space solutions, not only for Indian needs, but also for the nations abroad, for a low cost solutions as such. And coming to the second aspect of rising capital in space domain in India, it has been like in mid 2018 when we started, and post that in the formative years, it is indeed a challenging journey for any startup who have started much prior to that or in those times, because it's a lot of educative effort, because most of the VC ecosystem in India are accustomed to either e-commerce or SaaS-based businesses, but most of the partners and people who can take investment calls in this VC ecosystem are not accustomed to space industry as such, needless to say, the ability to evaluate the technological capability of the teams and the founding teams is simply non-existent. So it was a lot of educative effort in the first place, and we cannot blame the VC industry also, because at that time there are multiple risks. It is not just a technology risk a VC has to take at that time. There is even a regulatory risk in the first place. And of course, market risk is always there. So in 2018-19 timelines, it was a lot of uncertainties were there in general. And post the reforms of 2020, things have slightly changed, and due to educative efforts by multiple startups in space domain, now the VC ecosystem is like well aware of the market potential of space industry, and also have a good clarity on the Indian space policy on the regulatory front on the commercial space activities in general. So they need to just evaluate a startup based on the technology solution and the technological capability and their ability to address the market that they're trying to serve to. So going forward, it is going to be more easier, at least for a good idea in space domain, to raise seed capital. But to raise further rounds of like a growth capital is still a challenge in India, just because of the sheer lack of VC in the VC ecosystem to participate with the bigger checks in the growth stage of startups. We hope that will be solved partially by good liberal FDA policies, so that like good VC ecosystem from abroad also can participate in the growth story of Indian space startups.
Thank you, Bharath. You know, we are sitting in the cradle of leadership, cradle of policy making, you know, something for all of us to think about and take a note of it, and how can we ease this journey a little bit further. Thank you, Bharath. Pixxel, Kshitij, you're an engineer, I'm an engineer. Why would you take the most competitive space, which is a space of observation, you know, different names, data intelligence, intelligent data and all those stuff, and that too hyperspectral satellite ecosystem? Why would you guys even attempt that? And how do you see?
So essentially, when we started out, we tried looking at multiple sources of satellite imagery. And there is a clear gap in the industry where there's not enough hyperspectral data available to do applications that only hyperspectral data can do. To put it into perspective, if you're looking at electro-optical imagery, you usually see red, green, and blue the same way your eyes can see. Maybe there are some multispectral satellites, push it to 10, 12 bands. But if you truly want to analyze what you're looking at, get into the chemical properties of it, hyperspectral imaging essentially offers you that service where you can look at very narrow bands and identify exactly what's there. And that opportunity is too good to miss. NASA, JPL, specifically focusing on their EO1 and other payloads, pioneered this technology from space. And we were at that cusp, at that inflection point where, you know, any scientific technology can become commercial. And that is the opportunity that we are working with. There's obviously a very strong downstream ecosystem that is emerging that needs to be built. Things like spectral libraries, things like getting into actual applications of hyperspectral imagery, fusing it with other sources like synthetic aperture radar or other data. There's a lot of things to do, but the simplest thing that we could observe was that there is an absolute market for this. Every time we went ahead and told someone we want to build hyperspectral satellites, there was never a, oh no, we're not interested. There's always been interest in the data. And this is something the industry has been waiting for quite some time. Now, where we go ahead from this is we've demonstrated a couple of satellites in space. We are getting to a point where we are also improving our technology, taking it to the highest resolution. We want to prove that we can build best-in-class, world-class technology from India, and that's the aim with Pixxel. To go back to the question, no one reason why we picked up something like hyperspectral imagery, but there's a clear market. There's a place where India can lead the world, and it's something that felt very natural for us.
Just for everyone to know, Pixxel has raised successful rounds. So tell us about that, because you were one of the early entrants, and you took this particular domain. Has that journey eased as you are going for successive capital infusion and up rounds?
It's been optimistic, very positive compared to how it was back in 2020, 2021. And I think at this point of time, if I look back at it, the one thing that people used to tell us, oh, you don't have anything in space, how do we sign a contract, or how do we buy something from you that's not there already? And that catch-22 locks in most hardware deep tech companies, where you have to prove your POC. And that's why we realized that to actually make people take us seriously, what we'll do is we'll raise a seed round of funding. We'll put up whatever we can in space, prove that the technology works, and then scale it. So we're now at that scenario as an organization where we are scaling our technology. Instead of having demo satellites, we are now aiming to put up commercial grade constellation of satellites early next year. So those things are moving ahead. And I would say it's not exactly been very easy. It's always a roller coaster. But of late, it has been more optimistic than it used to be.
Thank you. I have one more thing, but I'm just going to keep it for later. Kranthi, Dhruva Space. Enterprise software in India, has got SaaS, and we have PaaS, platform as a service, software as a service, infrastructure as a service. When do we see space infrastructure as a service to start with, Kranthi, and tons of dollars flowing into companies which are SaaS, so-called SaaS companies, PaaS companies? Why can't we do that space as an infrastructure service?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question, because how long are we going to keep building capabilities in-house, and how much capabilities building would require a lot of, if I'm a data supplier, right, Pixxel is there, Yeah. So basically, for them to start and see that there's a downstream market for hyperspectral data, and then having to go all the way upstream to build their own satellites, work on it, bring the teams together, or work with multiple vendors to put that together. It's becoming a very hassle in terms of getting that mission realization. You're forgetting what your actual objective is. So I think space as a service and space infrastructure as a service is a growing economy across the world, and especially in the defense, when you look at programs. Now, US Space Development Agency does not buy satellite buses. They give a single contract for the satellite, integration with the launch vehicle, setting up of the ground station, and doing the operations. So I think the models have evolved. And for India and Indian companies to do it, I think Bharath and Kshitij mentioned it. I think the TRL levels, raising the bar and making ease of doing business is going to be the crucial one. I think as a first step, all of us are at that level where we've launched our first mission in June. We've got the satellite deployment mechanism tested. Next month, we are launching 2 of our satellites for technology demonstration. And in the next year, we are looking to fly on Skyroot. We are looking to work with Bellatrix on their propulsion system integrated with our platforms, work with them on their space tug. So I think as an industry, we are collaborating together to ensure our TRL levels raise, and we become, from a technology's point of view, within the next 1.5 to 2 years, that we can serve to the globe. The second step that has to happen is the regulatory. Most of the space products are under this COMET list. The policy updation has to happen in terms of allowing us to export. If you look at the exports of spacecraft subsystems from India last year, believe it or not, it's 1,530 rupees. That's the export that whole of India did in terms of spacecraft subsystems, if you look at 8507 as the HSN code. So are we not a country which can hit 1 crore, hundreds of crores in these sales? Yes, absolutely. And I think we have to take that step forward as an industry also to look at those regulatory changes that need to happen. I think SCOMET list is being updated for the drone industry so that they can start exports. And I think that while the updates are happening on the SCOMET list, if the satellites part of us can also be included, that allows us to do things. And a more important question in terms of a space as a service is that our clients are going to be also defense. They would be requesting for data. So, say Digantara building a sensor in India and capturing the data of a satellite of a Chinese asset, that data is going to be useful for multiple countries. Is there going to be restriction on data sharing agreements? Are there going to be free movement of data? Can we actually sell those data sets to other countries? Will be the questions, because these are the regulatory challenges that have not yet come into the domain to be addressed. But once addressed is when the market will be outflow. Until then, we are looking for internalization. When will the next tender come out? How can we supply? So I think that's crucial in terms of, as an industry growing from a technical perspective, to also the regulatory barriers that needs to be solved to ensure. And I think in 5 years' time, we should be one of those top 5 countries again in terms of spacecraft component economy, in terms of an outflow.
Thank you. Brilliant, Kranthi. What I really want, that this should not be just a nice discussion. There should some points which are brutal, honest, points. So thanks for mentioning word defense, which is going to be the largest consumer for this exponentially increase. So I'm just going to take a pause. So if the space economy in India has to really, really grow to $1 trillion, and we have to really capture 25%, 30% of the data, and the monetization of data has to happen. It will happen only through services, like it has happened, what I call as in software architectures which have emerged. Now we have SaaS, infrastructure as a service, and all that stuff. And all of us who directly or indirectly influence policy, I think we need to really, really get out of this zone of this particular specific tender to that particular specific tender and create some kind of a policy framework which not only allows but encourages, sassification of this. Otherwise, this flywheel will remain, we have, vehicles, we have propulsion engines, we have some kind of data intelligence, bespoke, frameworks, maybe some products. It will not explode. And so thank you for that. Thank you, really appreciate that.
Just wanted to add, I think sassification from a defense perspective has been happening, but it's been happening with international data service providers. Air Force and Navy both buy AIS data from Spire and Exact. That's been there for the last 3 years. But if you start allowing us to participate and actually build those satellites, you don't have to depend on foreign data, where you don't have the restrictions of certain areas not getting the data sets. Same thing with respect to hyperspectral data or others, where we have restrictions from countries like US in terms of what data is shared. Every geographic region has their restrictions. You're buying those data, but make it available. I think 30 crores of satellite imagery is being procured by defense every year, and beyond that by the security agencies. So bring that out and say that if you are already procuring these services, why should those services not be procured from the Indian companies? And enable us in terms of launching satellites so that we can provide you faster those data sets.
Okay, thank you. I have been told that chairperson, you have to leave early, and I thought you requested me to talk in the end. Well, you don't require an introduction, the stage is yours. And we'll continue this.
Good morning, everybody. I was thinking that I'll talk in the end based on what I hear from other panelists. But yeah, I do have an engagement where I have to leave shortly. The entire thing, assuming whatever others have to say, which are more technologically oriented or what they are doing in their sphere of business or startup, I'll try to sum up my talk in 3 parts. One is something that relates to the VCs also, because there are 2 VCs here. One is related to the entrepreneurs, and the third one is related to the policymakers. So let me start with the VCs first, because without a startup cannot take off in today's world. I grew up at a time, I started my startup when no VCs existed in India back in 90s. But today's world, when you think about it, we had to operate like an ant. We moved at the ant space because there was no funds available. Then the next phase came in 2000, 2010, where the startups really started moving at a fast pace. But when you think of today, look at the example of ISpA. In my eyes, it's a startup organization. Just in 1 year, the speed at which they have come up with, the way they have raised the funds to do all these activities is a remarkable achievement. So that reminds me of a book written by John Mullins in the Harvard Business Review, a professor at London Business School, is customer-funded business model, wherein he talks about that VCs are not the only source. For ISpA, I don't think they went to VCs to raise money to organize in just 1 year all this, what we are seeing today. So the message for the VCs are, if you want 4x, 5x, 10x return on your investment, and you want to wait for all the regulatory things to happen, I doubt if you will ever get 4x, 5x, and 10x return. Yours is a risk money. So take the risk before the regulatory framework has happened or changed for the benefit of the startups. So that's a very clear, my view on that front for the VCs. Coming to the policymakers, and then I'll talk about the entrepreneurs. A lot of policy changes are happening. In the last 2 years, I guess the entire industry, whether be it space or geospatial or drone, I consider all the 3 as 3 brothers in the same overall space, in the same overall industrial environment. The kind of changes that have happened, but certainly every time a policy comes, is tweaked by the people who want to use it in a different way. So the humble request to the policymakers is, please be on guard, keep a look, watch out what was the intent as part of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So keeping that in mind, the good intent of any policy which is happening is not misused. Finally, the message further, or my observations about the entrepreneurs. And this is purely from my experience. It's not coming from Harvard, it's not coming from LBS, it's not coming from Stanford. It's a pure experience of my own of 25 years of journey, which is still continuing as a startup. An entrepreneur is one, we all know, who comes up with great ideas. The ideas which are disruptive technology and disruptive business model. I remember all these 25 years, continued with the disruptive technology and disruptive business model. Without that, an entrepreneur becomes a normal businessman. So that's not what we are talking about here today. So what they need, or what I used or I learned, put it that way, every day had been a learning experience for me. The very first one was passion. If I don't have the passion for something, and it was a passion that kept me going in those adverse days of 20 long years. The passion never died. Behind the passion was conviction. Without the conviction, I didn't start back in 95 digitally mapping India, when nobody had even dreamt about it, thinking that digital mapping can be done in a private sector, considering all the policies that didn't allow it. Without getting into details how I did it successfully within the framework of the policies, that how one can do it if the intent is good. So what was the conviction I had at that time? The conviction was very simple, that any data, 80% of any data will have a location component. So digital map was required. So that was the conviction. Then comes the kind of things that I learned was the patience. Without patience, again, things can't happen. Very important thing that the entrepreneur has to build an organizational culture. The culture is what you set up as an entrepreneur, is what is going to make your organization successful. Now, I can keep talking about it, but at the end of my talk right now, all that I would like to do is wish you all a very successful journey. The entrepreneurship is a journey, and the journey never ends, whether you be a serial entrepreneur or you make a big business, become a global business leader in this space. Competing with the world giants should not distract you. We are competing as MapmyIndia, competing with the world's #1 giant. We had to figure out our ways, come all the time through the tweaking our own business model. Without getting into the details again, we have only grown. So I don't think we also believe in, what is the right word? Protectionism. It's not protectionism that's required. It's encouragement from the policymakers is what is required. So I won't say that I'm looking or seeking for a protectionist environment, but definitely an encouraging environment which is there in the country today. So I must thank all the policymakers, all the entrepreneurs who are trying to make a dent in this space, and wish you a very, very happy journey to become a global leader. Thank you. Ravi?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. So quickly, we just have kind of 5 to 7 minutes. Anirudh, why space situational awareness, or why not space situational awareness, why it never happened before in India? It's a perfect use case for a dual usage for defense as well as civil. It's a huge market. It's a market which is going to increase exponentially, double-digit year on year. It is already increasing as the concentration of objects in space increase, which we all bet in all our thesis. Why it hasn't happened, why you did that in a very brief way, and how do you see Digantara and the market growing?
So every technology that is related to, say, space or defense, which has kind of dual use. So space situational awareness has been one of such strategic domain for every country to build an indigenous capability. Be it India or US, or every country needs to have indigenous capability on this particular domain because of its strategicness and nature. Which is why we started working towards space situational awareness at the time when there were probably 2-3 companies in the world doing this commercially. It was more of a defense thing which the countries were doing. And just to give you some numbers, we have around 1 million objects in space at this point in time, and 35,000 objects are tracked every single day. Predominantly, US and Russia does this. And we have agreements with the US Department of Defense, and we share data with them, and we also get data from them on space situational awareness. When we were doing this, we saw a clear gap that in future, there has to be an infrastructure on which the economy has to grow, just like the backbone for the aviation sector is air traffic management. When space industry is moving at such pace, there requires a similar infrastructure for the industry to grow and support, which is why we identified that this would not only be a defense thing, but more or less also a commercial activity where, just to give you another example, United States Department of Defense transferred all the responsibilities of space situational awareness from Department of Defense to Commerce. They've already seen that commercial companies entering into this domain is of critical in nature for the industry itself to grow, be it anywhere, and they're open to collaborate with international companies also to build this global ecosystem. And this was identified, and we started working towards that initially with a space-based sensor kind of a setup, but then we realized that it's not just the sensor, but it more or less generating more data points. That's when we started working towards more of a data fusion kind of a mechanism to solve the problem of space situational awareness in a way where we can track all these million objects that are around.
It's something for all of us to think about in terms of future policy making and the pointers in the policy. As I've said, this is not about nice conversations. It's about taking points and helping space entrepreneurship in India. Both of us are engineers, okay? Both of us love hardware. Both of us are aerospace engineers. Why take space propulsion system? Why take it? Why even build it? Given the nascency, even today, given the nascency and the economics flywheel associated with that. Take us through that journey. I want everyone to know your journey. And also, not in a hilarious, maybe semi-serious mode, orbit mobility, can India lead it? And if India wants to lead it, what we need to do?
Yeah, thanks. Basically, if you look at mobility in space, I think all these years, all the things that we could think of was rockets, because that's very fascinating to see a rocket fly off right in front of you and deliver satellites to space. But I think once satellites are there and you need to extract value from satellites, you need to send satellites to the exact locations where you want to perform. What becomes very important is in-space mobility. The power that your satellite has to go from your orbit to where you want it to go, and how quickly the satellites can reach there, how sustainably the satellites can reach there, right? These are the two important things. And as technologies evolved globally, right, we saw that I think once something was tested and proven in space, it was not touched upon for a lot of time. If it works in space, you repeat the same thing and you keep building the missions. So that has been the strategy, but again, there has been quite a bit of research in terms of advanced tech. But taking it from the research and putting it on a spacecraft requires a lot of conviction, because the amount of money that you spend on an entire spacecraft is very high, and if your propulsion system fails, you have lost your satellite. So it's only in the last few years that newer trends came in, newer technologies came in, and we saw this particular change in dynamics in the industry as an opportunity for Bellatrix to pitch in. And we were right in college when we started this company. As students, we wanted to build some new technology which could change the economics of the space industry, try to cut down cost, try to increase capabilities. So we started working on a technology that used water as fuel to power satellites. That was our first project. And then we have been also mentored by ISRO. We got a developmental contract from ISRO. So under ISRO's guidance, we were able to understand the challenges in building something for space and learn from that. And today, I think I'm happy to share that we have technologies to cater to a wide variety of satellites, and especially the constellations. So that has been the focus. And now quickly moving on to in-space mobility, there are a lot more things that we can do apart from just the propulsion systems. Right. Tomorrow we are looking at a lot of in-orbit servicing activities. Maybe if there are debris that are creating some problems, you might have to go and hold on to that debris and bring it down. Or maybe if there are situations where you have a defunct satellite and all the electronics are working well and you only need to refuel those satellites, you need technologies that can do that, right? So we see in-space propulsion or satellite propulsion as a core competency for this. So based on that, we are also building something called orbital transfer vehicles, or in simple terms, space tugs. These are basically vehicles lying in space. Once you send them on a mission, they can go and do some sort of maneuvers in space, do these kinds of specialized maneuvers based on our unique propulsion systems and come back. So these are the things we are building.
Thank you. Hope you guys speed the delivery faster, and beyond ISRO, Somnaji, others basically use their technology. Suyash, GalaxEye is doing several things. Okay, most of them are convergence of SAR and optical sensors and use cases surrounding that. How do you see this this market? Nobody has able to develop a thesis around so many use cases in the market, which is developing over here. So your take on that?
Yeah, I think when we started on this journey, probably everyone was already there, like building multispectral or radar payloads at least, or the satellites, and a lot of data was already available. From our perspective, what we found the gap was when there was only radar or synthetic aperture radar. It was very difficult for people to understand what it is, at least in the commercial markets. And in optical or multispectral, it was very intuitive to identify the objects and features. But multispectral was not available all the time. So the focus is, why are we targeting a lot of use cases in that terms is because, these data sets are more complementary. So rather to go deeper into one kind of data set, we thought, we'll blend these two to get the best of the both worlds. And I think that basically is a logical way. The only thing is that tech is a little more complex when it comes to software side. So yeah, I think with the commoditization happening and a lot of other things happening in the ecosystem, we want to leverage all those efforts and put it together to bring in one level of software. Unfortunately, there's no off-the-shelf synthetic aperture radar available. So we had to redo, start from scratch and build our own. So right now, I think we have done the airborne sensing. We are pretty much there. We've done it on drones. We are now moving towards the aircraft, and then eventually we'll go to space. So that is the plan overall.
Awesome. Last, Vish, from an ecosystem perspective, Vish, lot of venture capitalists, a lot of customers, they do ask this question about moat. Hey, you are a space entrepreneur, you are a space startup. What is your moat? And few of them who know a little bit deeper, they basically ask about dual usage, defense and civil. How do you see entrepreneurship from your own eyes, being in this ecosystem for such a long time?
Sure. So two things, right? So one is you spoke about moat, so it's basically competitive advantage, and the other is about the size of the market opportunity. Let me take the first one. So if you look at competitive advantage, again, you got to look at whether it's an end product, or it's a part or a subcomponent or a subsystem of an end product. Call it a core product, right? So then you really, as a technology entrepreneur, looking at innovation, looking at sort of developing and then translating technology, looking at leadership both at a core product level as well as at an end product level, right? At a core product, naturally, technology leadership could give you that enduring competitive advantage. You can have a generational advantage, right? Second is to look at versatility of design, right? So it could be the same core product that can power multiple end products, right? So basically Intel inside. It doesn't really matter whether Apple sells or ASUS sells, Intel sells, right? So that kind of an Intel inside kind of a model is again very critical, to look at. Now moving into market opportunity, again the same thing. End product market sizes could be very limited, and obviously if you look at defense markets, they're very small. So you really have to look at what more beyond the Indian defense, opportunity. It could be export, and a lot of the friendly nation agreements that the Minister of Defense has struck could come in very handy to look at a sizable export market. Next is to look at commercial civilian kind of applications, right? And one thing I've seen, I've been, of course, many people here, including General Khandare. I see Dr. Sudhir, of course, Dr. Somnath here. We're all part of an initiative driving defense space, right? And we're going to have some announcements coming very soon. And while we went about curating all of those innovation challenges, what we've kept at the very core is to look at potential use cases that can drive both civilian as well as defense use cases. So any challenge that has a higher dual use obviously has gone up, right? I don't see DG DSA here, maybe he's on his way, but I'm sure he can talk a lot more about how every single challenge that we looked at has an extremely high dual use potential, right? So to me, the message to the entrepreneurs here and many more emerging in the space domain is to look at core product versus end product, and to look at competitive advantage as well as market opportunity in both these dimensions. I would look at it that way.
Thank you. Well, as I said, I'm going to close with the same thing. Look, I don't advise entrepreneurs. These guys know what they are doing, and they probably know more than all of us in this room, with due respect to everyone. What they need is help. Okay, and they need help across the ecosystem, and we have discussed about that particular ecosystem. We can't leave commoditization of one value chain in between. Sassification of data has to happen, and defense has to participate in that, because, well, we can debate about, according to me, defense is a huge consumer base in India. For a startup perspective, if they have to raise a Series B, one defense contract for a startup can get them a Series B of $25 million, raised very easily. The point which I'm trying to make over here, look, I've studied these companies, and these guys are remarkable founders, and I really mean that. They are remarkable founders, and space entrepreneurship in India is of highest quality. And just not to be controversial, hence I'm not, I'm very conservative in my, I really mean it's of a highest order. Unit economics in the DNA is in our favor. It's how soon we can just explode and open up use cases, both domestic and create a favorable ecosystem so that they can have consumers internationally. Extremely humble and thankful to ISpA to give them this stage to open up this event with startups. Full of gratitude. Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much to the representatives of all the startups for kickstarting the conclave. And may I now please request Air Marshal R.K.S. Bhadauria, the former Chief of Air Staff, to please come up and present mementos to the moderator and the panelists. First memento to our moderator, Mr. Ravinder Pal, partner, Kaalari Capital. To Mr. Anirudh Sharma, founder and CEO, Digantara Research and Technologies. Yashas Karanam, COO and co-founder, Bellatrix Aerospace. I had taken Rohan Ganpati's name, but Mr. Yashas Karanam has come from Bellatrix. Mr. Bharath Daka, co-founder, Skyroot Aerospace. Mr. Kranthi Chand, Head Strategy and Special Projects, Dhruva Space Private Limited. Mr. Suyash Singh, co-founder, GalaxEye Space Solutions. Mr. Kshitij Khandelwal, founder and CTO, Pixxel. And Mr. Vish Sahasranamam, co-founder and CEO of Forge. The chairperson of the session, Mr. Rakesh Verma, had to leave. May I request Rohan Verma, if he's here, to please come up and accept the memento on behalf of the chairman of this session from Air Marshal Bhadauria. Can we all assemble for a group photograph? I can't see them. Are they smiling? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for starting out that session for us. Can I have a round of applause for this session? Thank you. And now a very, very important part of this conclave, and that is the felicitation of startups. And I would request Mr. S. Somnath, the chairman of ISRO, to please do the honors for us. And as I call out the names of these companies on your screens, you will see exactly what they have been doing. And it is my honor and privilege to please call upon the chairman of ISRO to do the honors for us and felicitate the startups in various categories. May I request the representatives of these startups to please come up and accept the felicitation from Chairman ISRO. The first category, space launch vehicles, and Skyroot Aerospace Private Limited and Agnikul Cosmos Private Limited are being felicitated. May I request the representatives to please come up. You can see on the screen Skyroot. Can I please have on the screen, please? Skyroot, the first aerospace startup to formally sign up with ISRO. The first private Indian company to design, build, and test solid rocket propulsion stage. First Indian startup to fire cryogenic engine test. First Indian startup to test full duration stage test. Next we have Agnikul. May I request a representative to come up. First Indian startup to build a fully 3D printed rocket engine, Agnilet. First Indian startup to build a small private satellite rocket. First Indian startup having its own launch pedestal, and has developed thin wall tanks that can hold high pressure liquid propellant and pressurants. Yeah, because, yeah. Wow, it's very nice to see that spirited applause. The next category is the space services remote sensing, and may I call upon the representative from Pixxel to please come up. And could I have on the screen? Pixxel is working on the world's most advanced satellite imaging constellation. It is on a mission to build a health monitor for the planet through constellation of cutting-edge hyperspectral small satellites. Provides 5-meter spatial resolution, the highest resolution in commercial hyperspectral satellites, working on solving various problems from agriculture, environment, energy, mining, and government. Can I have a round of applause, please? Kshitij Khandelwal accepting the award from Pixxel. The next award goes to GalaxEye Space Private Limited in the same category. May I please request the representative to come forward? Suyash Singh is coming up on stage to collect this award. GalaxEye is launching a constellation of advanced Earth observation satellites capturing the most meaningful data set from space. With their groundbreaking technology, they aim to provide businesses and government agencies with unique data sets that enable them to make data-driven decisions in a wide variety of applications ranging from disaster management and defense to mineral exploration and insurance. Thank you very much, Suyash. Thank you. And next we have Zovian Aerospace. Can I have a representative from there, please? Anyone from Zovian? Okay, he's coming. Zovian has a vision to provide low-cost satellite solutions to India. The company also conducts educational and research-based activities to bridge the innovation gap between industries and educational institutions. Zovian has escalated in CANSAT, sounding rockets, high-altitude balloons, and satellite component manufacturing. Thank you very much. The next category is Space Services Infrastructure. And the award for this goes to Digantara. Digantara has been creating the world's first space-based orbit surveillance platform. I believe Anirudh Sharma is coming from Digantara. Please come up. It is also developing a two-pronged system to address the difficulties of space operations and situational awareness. It's building the biggest catalog of man-made space objects ever known. And it also detects space objects with highest resolution and accuracy, enabling it to detect over 18 times more space projects. Thank you very much. That was Digantara. Our next category is Innovative Subsystem. And the first award, or the first felicitation for that is to Dhruva Space Satellite Ground Stations. May I request the representative to please come up. Dhruva has been creating exceptional small satellite systems to help space exploration technology to meet human imagination and innovation. It's been enabling rapid satellite deployment for multiple platform sizes and from various launch vehicle providers. Thank you very much. The next and the last felicitation in the category of innovative subsystem is to Bellatrix Aerospace Propulsion Systems. May I please request, I believe Yashas is coming up, yes. Bellatrix specializes in in-space propulsion systems and orbital launch vehicles. It has been constantly evolving to facilitate the development of key technologies in electric propulsion, new generation propellants, and launch vehicles. They plan to launch their own rocket named Chetak in 2020. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you, gentlemen, for doing the honors and to felicitate the startups. After this, we are going to be setting the stage for the plenary session as well as the inaugural session. And before that, let us stretch our legs a little bit and have a cup of tea or coffee. So we will be taking a 15-minute break. But before that, a small announcement. One of the most important applications of NAVIC is to provide accurate time for the country. This will be used by the telecom industry, railways, aviation, defense forces, etc. The Telecom Center of Excellence and the Department of Telecom has selected ELINA Geosystems to make NAVIC clock circuits. The satellite clock of ELINA is placed in the foyer near the lift. I request all of you to please go visit the satellite clock. You can also visit the kiosks, do your networking. I'll see you in exactly 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.